What's up, guys? We're back with another comparison. Be sure to drop your comparison requests, because once we're done with these comparisons, we're going to be moving on. I got the Xiaomi 14 coming, and I got a few more phones coming. So drop those comparisons. So we're going to finish the week off, with these S24 comparisons. So today we got the S20 Ultra versus the S24 Ultra here. Really good comparison. I was really surprised here with a few things like the camera quality and a few other things. But let's go ahead and just jump into it here. Alright, so one thing that I absolutely love about the S20 Ultra is that it's basically like the Note 20 Ultra, but it's way cheaper, right? With it doesn't have the S Pen, it has that more comfortable design, but you can find these like $200. So I always say, if you don't care about the S Pen and you want an older flagship, get the S20 Ultra. Of course, the S24 Ultra gonna be expensive, $1,300 phone. Even with a trade-in, still gonna cost you a bit much. So let's see if it's really worth it here. As you can see with the design here, very different takes on the design language here. With the S20, it's more curved and it's way more comfortable. Even though this is actually a bigger phone at 6.9 inches, still for me, even with smaller hands, it's still way easier to hold than the wider and boxier S24 Ultra. So definitely gets points there. As you can see, Samsung has moved on design wise. You can see the camera has changed a lot, as you can see. But yeah, I like the matte finish on the S24 Ultra. The S20 does have a glossy finish, which it can pick up fingerprints and stuff like that. And yeah, so of course you're gonna get the S Pen at the bottom of the S24. So there's a lot you can do with the S Pen software wise. I might put a full video out actually on just the S Pen, but basically take notes, digital artwork. You can circle GIFs and stuff like that. There's a ton of stuff that you can do with the S Pen. It's something that I really like. I actually use it as like a coloring book sometimes when I'm bored. I think it's actually kind of therapeutic. You do have the new titanium build on here, so it does feel a little bit lighter, especially for a phone with this massive battery in it. So that's really nice, but we'll see how the titanium holds up in a year or so. But yeah, design wise, the S20 Ultra still looks decent. It's not my favorite design from Samsung, but I think it still looks decent. The biggest hardware difference here with these two phones is that the S20 Ultra does have SD card support and the S24 does not. So that's like a massive hardware difference, and it really depends on the person, right? Some people, they take a lot of video, download a lot of stuff. You're gonna want that SD card. If you don't, you can get the 512GB model. You should be fine. And also, they are both IP68 dust and water resistant as well too. Alright, so let's talk about the displays here. So there is a bit of an upgrade here. So the S24 has a 6.8 inch display. It's 1440p 505 for the PPI. It also is LTPO dynamic AMOLED, 120 Hz HDR10 Plus with a max brightness of 2600 nits peak brightness in direct sunlight. The S20 has a slightly bigger 6.9 inch display, if you can see that. It's very subtle, but it is bigger. And then it's also a 1440p display, 511 for the PPI, and then it's 120 Hz HDR10 Plus, 1400 nits peak brightness. The limitations with the S20 is that basically you can only run 120 Hz in 1080p, so that's a limitation. The S24 does not have that limitation. It can run it at 1440p. You do have a more boxier design on the S24, which gives it more of a TV look, but like I said, not as comfortable to hold. The S20, in my opinion, is way more comfortable to hold. And yeah, so honestly, looking at both displays, Samsung is supposed to fix the display problem with the S24. It's kind of washed in comparison to the older Galaxy flagships. They said this is a bug, so it will be fixed. So I'm not gonna hold that against it. But yeah, so both displays look really good. Like I said, there's minimal upgrade here, and I'm gonna be honest. Even running the S20 in 1080p, it still looks really good from this distance. I'm gonna say this, like, you can only really tell the difference if you watching 1440p content. Then you'll notice that slight detail. Like if I pulled up a 1440p YouTube video, but I'm saying, like, at this distance, they look completely identical for the most part. So like I said, the display upgrade, the average person will probably not notice. And what's funny is that most people don't know that the S24 Ultra, it'll come default in 1080p as well too. It's not it won't be in 1440p. So most people don't even know. So like I said, the display upgrade, it's kind of minimal unless you're like outdoors a lot. All right, let's talk about these specs a little bit more. So again, this is going to be pretty much the same specs as the Note 20 Ultra here. This S20 got its last major OS update with Android 13, One UI 5.1. It does have micro SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, 12 gigs of RAM on the base model. The S24, it does have the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, 256 gigs of internal storage and 12 gigs of RAM. This is the 512 gigabyte version. And as far as the speed of these two phones, it's pretty much similar. You're not gonna find like a big speed difference when it comes to opening applications, and even animations, you'll notice, are gonna feel pretty much the same for the most part. And that's not saying that the S24 is not faster than the Note, because we saw with the Geekbench scores there. It's just not gonna be faster in real life. Like doing your day-to-day stuff, you're not gonna feel the difference too much. Like right there is probably like the biggest speed difference that you'll see is opening video games and stuff like that. You might have a second or two delay on the on the S20. But you see the stuff like this where, you know, it's not that big of a deal. You know, do people really want to spend that extra money for a couple seconds of speed difference there? And also, you will be surprised if you're a casual gamer. The same theme applies here. The same thing applies with casual gaming. Now, I'm saying if you're a hardcore gamer, yes, this is a pretty decent upgrade. For one reason, because of battery life. If you play games a lot and you don't want to be constantly on the charger and stuff like that. And also, the cooling is definitely really good on the S24. But for performance, I'm just not really seeing it. Like I was saying, it translates over to PUBG as well too. If you're looking for like some cheap gaming to do and you want to play PUBG competitively, you have 90 frames on the S20 Ultra. It's going to give you some really good performance on here. You can see very instant. The Snapdragon 865 chipset on here, it doesn't really overheat, which is really nice. And again, guys, I'm not sure about the Exynos models. I don't have access to the Exynos versions. They sell those overseas, so I can't get my hands on them. But I would just recommend, if you can, just get the Snapdragon version. But you can see 90 frames, and they feel virtually the same. And that's not just PUBG, Call of Duty Mobile, the other games in the Play Store as well too. There's nothing that the S20 Ultra can't play. So I would say the gaming experience is pretty much similar for the most part, unless you are somewhat of a hardcore gamer. Then you'll really like the cooling capabilities of the S24, and also just the better battery life as well too. Check out these speakers at max volume. Yeah, guys, I'm really impressed doing these comparisons. I'm really impressed with the S24 speakers. They are really impressive this year. I mean, they're loud and full, and it almost makes the S20 Ultra sound a little bit flat in comparison. They're just loud, full. It has a crispy sound to it. So very impressive speakers. The speakers are definitely an upgrade. All right, so biometrics are pretty much the same. There's no difference. It's still running the ultrasonic. And as far as the features go, like I said, especially if you're on Android 13, you're not missing out on really anything. You still have Samsung desktop support and a lot of the essential One UI features. Now, what you will be missing out on, and I don't think Samsung is going to bring this to the older phones, of course. I don't know if they're going to bring it to the older phones. They might bring the S23, S22. But the advanced intelligence, it's the AI stuff, which I'm going to make a separate video about, because it is quite a bit of stuff going on here. But there's a lot to do, like live interpretation, the video editor. You can do like AI stuff, move people around and stuff like that. It's really cool stuff. And also, I think the only thing that I've been using probably with the AI stuff is the Google search thing, where you hold down and you circle, like, and then it like, and this is for anything. So a picture, you see anything like on the street, take a picture, circle it, and it'll go ahead and find it. And it's really accurate, actually. So it's very impressive. The photo editor, I'm not really into like that. That's why I said I'll drop a video, but I'm not really into like the editing photos and stuff like that. But they have the Galaxy AI stuff, so you hit this AI button and you can like move objects. So we're gonna put them right here. Press generate. It'll just take a little bit. So it looks like it might be like pushing it from a server. I think it's natively in the OS. Yeah, so you can see it moved it, and that's pretty cool. Image quality might be something that you guys are going to be upgrading for. So you can check out these side-by-side stills. I took some pictures and video for you guys to check out, and you can kind of see if it justifies the money here. But the S20 does have a 108 megapixel a standard camera, a 48 megapixel periscope telephoto, 10 times a hybrid zoom, 4 times optical, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 0.3 depth sensor. It can actually shoot an AK-24 in a 40 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. You also have a 200 megapixel camera on the S24, 50 megapixel periscope telephoto, 5 times optical, 10 megapixel periscope, or not just telephoto, 3 times, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide shoots in 8K 30, and then a 12 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. They both do the 100 times space zoom as well too, so you can do the the 100 times zoom. And yeah, so I took some zoom shots and just some stills video. Let me know what you guys think. Alright, so lastly, let's talk about battery life. This is probably a really strong spot for the S24 Ultra. So both these phones have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. They both have 45 watt charging as well too. They both have the same wireless and reverse wireless charging. The biggest difference here is that the S24 battery life is just way better. It has better standby time, and also even if you're doing intensive stuff, it's really hard to kill the S24 in a day. So it's a very impressive phone when it comes to battery life. But like I said, the S23 Ultra was pretty good with battery life. So you might want to get that phone if you really care about battery life. You want to save some money because those two phones are extremely similar. So I've been telling people that. But yeah, so battery life is much better. So if you're thinking about upgrading and battery life is probably like a #1 thing, yeah, I mean, go for it. It definitely is really good battery life. Besides that, the phones are very similar. Performance wise, I thought the cameras were definitely noticeably better on the S24, but it really depended on the shot. I thought the zoom photography was better, but as when it came to just regular stills and video, I didn't really notice it that much. But yeah, so it really comes down to your personal preference. Be giving up the SD card support, of course. I think the screen to me is better on the S20 as far as design wise, being more comfortable. You get the S Pen, you get the Galaxy AI stuff. You kind of have to make that decision on whether you think this is worth an upgrade, whether you see enough value in the S24. So that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.